Hey there, CutieinCosplay here with another video. I've decided that I'd like to incorporate more of my stories into my videos, so today is going to be me talking about some of the Nintendo consoles I own that I have special stories to tell. So basically, I have 3 consoles that I'm going to be talking about today. I have a story for each one. Because I've already done a console collection video, there's no need for me to go over good points, cons about any consoles because I have done that video. But yes, this will be, I'm going to be splitting this video into multiple parts since some of my stories are a little longer and go from there. So let's get started. So the first Nintendo console that I'm going to be talking about, telling my story for, is my NES. Little controller right here. So when I was a kid, I used to go to like this secondhand shop that it sold like a bunch of different types of items, and what I was most interested in at the time was the toys, comics, games, stuff like that they had. And one day, when my family went to that store, I naturally went to the back of the store where all the electronics were, as I usually did. And as I was digging through the boxes, I found Beanie Baby cards. They looked so cool and cute to me at the time, and I found like maybe 10 packs of them at about $2 each, and I was like, yes, I need to take these home with me. So I asked my family if it was okay for me to get them, and they were like, yeah, sure. So after that, I was like, I've got my thing. I'm just gonna walk around and look now. So as I'm walking around the store, I passed the front counter and I saw 2 NES games, complete, in box, new, and those games were Mario Bros. 3 and Zelda 2. So they both had a sticker that read that they were $10. Now, of course, I did want them, but I was told that I had to give up the cards if I wanted to get them, so I had a difficult choice to make, okay? It was the Beanie Baby cards or the NES games. And when it came down to it, being the young naive kid I was, I chose the adorable Beanie Baby cards. Years later, when I look back, I am sad that I didn't get the games instead. I don't even know what happened to my Beanie Baby cards, so that's my NES story of making the wrong decision, but probably being happy at the time. Yeah, NES story right there. My next story involves my Super Nintendo. So, this is going to be a fun story. It is the story of how a Super Nintendo game made me cry. So, I used to love going to flea markets back when you could find games, toys, DVDs, things like that for like actually decent prices. I don't feel that way anymore and I don't go anymore, but back then I did. And one day when I went to a flea market, there was a vendor that had like a bunch of Super Nintendo games, and the prices were a little expensive, but you know, it was one of those sellers, like, that was a mom that knew nothing about games, but, like, she was selling her kids' old games, and, like, she would price the more well-known popular games higher because, like, she knew that, like, games like Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, they're popular, but, like, she didn't know at the time that they're actually pretty cheap to get online, or, like, even at some retro game stores. It was one of those vendors, you know? You can probably picture it now. But basically, at this vendor, common games were priced high, obscure games were priced kind of lower, and one particular game that caught my eye was Battletoads in Battle Maniacs, and it was only $3! What a steal! So I quickly grabbed it, and I gave the lady $3 from my little money pouch. I was just super excited because I already really liked the Battletoads games. I had Battletoads 1 and Battletoads Double Dragon on Genesis. So this was going to be another great beat 'em up for me to play. I was looking forward to it. After I got home, I played it with my siblings, but we could never get past the snake level. No matter how many times we played it, that was just as far as we could get. So one day, I decide that I will take it upon myself to beat it alone, because even though I really love co-op, Battletoads is a little more difficult with more players, so solo, I felt like maybe I had a better chance. One day after school, I come home, booted up the game, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think I had a really good run. Like, I was able to beat level 1, 2, and 3 without losing a life. Pretty amazing. Then I come to the snake level. Now was the time for me to beat this stage. I was going to pass it no matter what. And I had already had so much practice from playing with like my brothers before that I knew the way the snake would move. I knew their speed, the path that they were going to take. Like, I had these snakes figured out. So while I'm going through this, my platforming skills, they're put to the test. Snake after snake, I'm jumping, crouching, climbing my way to the end, and then it happens. The final snake, the end of the level, I beat it. I get past it, and it's amazing. What a great achievement for me. I felt so good. I had conquered the snakes, and nothing was going to stop me from beating this game now. And then the next stage starts, and I was ready. I had a great mindset. I was gonna beat it. Or so I thought. So the next stage it's a weird one, but pretty simple. You follow the road. Basically, you have to move the D-pad right, down, left, or up, depending on the turns that come up in this stage. But the big problem is that you're being chased by a saw that moves incredibly fast. So there isn't much room for error. If you're too slow to make the turns, the saw kills you. So life after life, I'd lose in seconds. Then I'd use up and continue, and use up another and another, until right before my very eyes, I had lost all of my lives, and continues, in less than what felt like 2 minutes. I remember staring at that game over screen in shock at what had just happened to me. I stood up, dropped my controller, tears filling up my eyes, and I just fell to my knees and began pounding the ground while I shouted, "No!" I was so upset, I can't even begin to explain. And that is the story of how Battletoads made me cry in rage. So my last story for my last console is going to be the Game Boy. Just a nice little fella. So the Game Boy is way before my time. So this story takes place like around the time the original DS was released, and that's what all the kids had, and I got one too, but that did not stop me from wanting to try other handhelds. So one day my family was going to take me to the park, and on the way there we saw a garage sale. We stopped to take a look, and they had some stuff that like my parents were interested, but there was nothing like really that interesting that stood out to me at first. Like no toys or good movies, anything like that. But there was one thing that I found that looked so cool. It was like this gray box with an odd looking design on the cover that I knew that it was a game system. I didn't know at the time that it was Nintendo's first handheld. I knew of Game Boy Advance and even of like Game Boy Color, but I had never seen or heard of the big original Game Boy that kind of looked like the NES. I asked my dad for it, and he talked with the man that was selling it, and he really only wanted it for $5, which that's awesome. After my dad paid for it and we got in the car, I opened it up. Inside the Game Boy was Tetris, and under some manuals was Super Mario Land, as well as Pokemon Yellow. I was so excited and happy that this new machine that I had never even knew existed until that moment had a Pokemon game and a Mario game. So neat. So yeah, after that day of having fun at the park, I spent the rest of the day playing my new Game Boy, well, new to me, playing my new Game Boy, and I still have that same Game Boy years later. It's him, this little guy, just a good cherished memory. So that is 3 of my Nintendo consoles, along with stories involving each of them. Let me know in the comments if you guys have stories about any of your consoles, or maybe you got some really great deals at garage sales or flea markets, or let me know your favorite Nintendo console in the comments. Anything like that. I love to hear all your stories and thoughts. Thank you so much for leaving a comment, and yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.